I can't believe that I'm saying this, but Final Fantasy X turned 21 today. 21. Where does time go? I just don't know where time goes. I will say that this is my favorite game of all time. Kingdom Hearts, I mean, I have Kingdom Hearts tattooed on me. But Final Fantasy X, I would say that Kingdom Hearts got me into, alone, like when I was old enough to, like, choose what I actually wanted to sit down and play and, like, follow a story on my own and not just, I'm playing Frogger with my cousins or Sonic or whatever, and I used to play, like, Resident Evil, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, all of those when I was younger, but then I got Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy together on Christmas in 2002, and that is what Kingdom Hearts started me gaming on my own and going, I want to follow this story. Final Fantasy X solidified me playing video games for the rest of my life. And I love this game. But it turned 21, and I can't believe that. And I've been talking about reacting to the old commercials or the trailers for them, for Final Fantasy X, just stuff that we grew up on, and I thought that would be really fun to do, and then I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this. So this was kind of just the perfect opportunity. So yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. Make sure you comment, subscribe, like the video, dislike the video. It all helps me out a lot. But yeah, let's watch this. Alright guys, let's do this. Don't you guys remember this playing, like, during Toonami?
There have been other worlds before.
And I'm not taking anything away from 7 or anything.
Exotic. Timeless.
I'll get into it.
Final Fantasy, the games.
Why are they always killing our girlfriends?
Interactive worlds that have captivated millions.
Dude, I remember this.
Taking you to
Oh my
the limits
god!
of your imagination.
And it really treated us like adults. You hit me with
And
a...
now,
Oh my god.
the phenomenon continues with Final Fantasy X.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix my waistband.
A young adventurer named Tidus.
There it is.
Beginning an epic journey. And Yuna, training in the ancient art of summoning.
Oh my
Join
god.
them as they struggle to save their world from a vast evil known only as sin.
This was so epic. If you're not from the early 2000s, I'm sorry. God, I remember this. And you were like, I don't know what it is, but I want it.
Their courage. Their passion.
That's one of the most beautiful FMVs ever. His first sending. Kamari Ronso's one of the greatest characters in the game.
The danger. Their
Stop.
world is your world. Become the adventure. Final
That was
Fantasy
sick.
X. Available only on PlayStation 2.
And you gotta remember, this was them like debut.
Spring 2002.
Oh my god.
Not yet rated.
I can't believe that I'm this old. Oh my god, I totally forgot about that. They really streamlined the combat. They were really trying to showcase what the PS2 could do, and this was like a big, huge deal. I didn't get it until the Christmas of 2002, and I got this and Kingdom Hearts together, and I didn't pick this up for a minute. I played Kingdom Hearts 1, and then I was like, oh yeah, I have that game that I wanted to play, but whatever. And then I remember I like threw it in, and I was like, oh, this is too much coming at me, and you gotta remember, how old was I? 9? Something like that. And so then I was probably like 10 or 11 when I officially was like, okay, I'm going to play this game. And then once it got going, and I do stand by this, like I said, it's a perfectly paced story. Outside of being a game, it's a perfectly paced game. And I feel like it's one of those games where if your friend is playing it and you catch it from the beginning, you're going to be like, I really don't want to go right now because I'm kind of stuck up in the middle of this story. It's that captivating to me. And I love 7. I'm not taking anything away from it. I love 8. I'm not taking anything away from it. But I feel like those ones can be a little intimidating to people if they've never played a JRPG or like I think they can be. I think that Final Fantasy X too is confusing. I think that I was like, Jesus Christ. But and to this day I haven't finished it. But it's just one of those things. I guess it's all preference too, but I do think 10 is the best. It was the first one with voice acting, so that was a huge deal. So that's what I mean here. I feel like anybody can pick this up. A younger kid, I mean, not a 5-year-old, but I feel like a 9 or a 10-year-old could pick this up. A 15-year-old could pick this up. Or a 25-year-old could pick this up and start playing it, and you're like, oh my god, okay. And it's the way they do the tutorials, everything, it just is so fluid and put together, and they make it easier to break down and understand, and that's a good thing, especially when you're trying to showcase, look at what we can do now on this new console. I think that's really smart. I also think it's one of the greatest openings to a video game of all time. When Otherworld kicks in during the Blitzball game, and Blitzball is the worst. Blitzball is the absolute worst. There are two types of people in this world, those who can play Blitzball and those who cannot. Now, I remember being a kid and running home for Toonami, and you had to run home to watch Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon, and you better catch it because no one was going to record it for you. There was no recording things back then. And do you guys remember when the Cell arc was coming? That was such a big deal. That was huge. So while we were watching Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and waiting for those, we had to wait. We had to wait. There was like a countdown. And if you guys don't remember that, do you want to know what? I'm gonna react to that and look those up. There were like horrifying commercials about it being like the end of days and stuff. And it was Cell was coming. And I remember coming home and you were like, "Oh, good. We'll continue the story of Dragon Ball Z." And that was not the case. That was not the case. They just started replaying the Frieza arc, and it was like, what the hell is this? And you were just pissed. And then they finally were like, oh no, it was coming, it was getting dubbed into English, the Cell arc was. So, but we had to wait on that. We had to wait on the androids. And it was, but before we had to wait, some of those commercials were crazy scary, I remember. And then you had this, and like I said, I think the marketing was smart because they treated us like we were adults. It was like, oh, come into this world, yada, yada, yada. And I really give it a lot of credit for that, and I think it was very smart. God, I forgot about that, and I forgot about those Squaresoft. I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot that it was called Squaresoft, because now it's Square Enix. But, I just have little things wrote down. This isn't me giving you, like, a review or anything like that. This was just me reacting to that and then talking about my favorite game. But I think it's one of the best love stories in all video games, between Yuna and Tidus. It's great. And something that's super rare, especially for the early 2000s, and I really appreciate this about the character of Yuna, and not just Yuna, but that being polite and being kind is its own strength. And throughout the game, Yuna's always like, no, I wouldn't talk badly about you either, and this and that. And she tells people off, and she lets you have it, but she says it in like a polite way. Like there's no need for me to be like F you, man. Like, and I love that about Yuna. And it's very rare, especially back then, to have a female character that's like that, and like Lulu, where it's like Lulu would just tell you you're a dummy, but that was rare to have. And I know Tidus is the main character, but Yuna is just as much there. But I really love that about that character in particular. And there's something very, I don't know, there's something very important about that, where it's like, strength isn't always, and she's the one who has to fight sin. She's the one who has to take on sin, you know? That's like a big thing. You have to be pretty strong to do that, you know what I mean? So it's like, and the fact that throughout the game, if you haven't played it, you have Auron going like, nope, we're going to do what she wants and this and that, and it's like, you find out what goes on, but it's just like, oh, that's a whole other strength, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I really respect and love the character of Yuna, and it's just like, this wasn't going on in the early 2000s. It was mainly just like, it was Dragon Ball Z. It was just like big, burly, and fighting was strength, not little, dainty, polite. That wasn't looked at as strength, but no, Yuna's strong just as much as anybody else in the party, and I really love that, and I really love that that's an important thing with this story. I really do. And not just with Yuna, but with all of the characters. Like, I know a lot of people like joke and stuff, but that's kind of the whole point, is like Waka being a racist, like, and learning from that and going like, oh, I was wrong, and then them having so much faith in Yevon and then going, I was wrong. Those are all really big themes in this, and I think those are really good messages to have, to be like, you know, just because you came up a certain way and thought a certain kind of way doesn't mean you're always right. And with the organized religion thing and all of that, and yeah, it's daddy issues all day for sure, but it's I really, this is a great story. It really is. And it's just the way they fold in the characters' layers is so eloquently done, and that's what I mean when I say the pacing. It's perfect. It really is perfect. With Kamari, with Lulu, with Waka, with Riku, with Auron, with all of these characters, you're getting constant little nuggets of information, and then going down to their like clothing. I always say this with Kamari, who's great, and if you don't understand how great Kamari Ronso is, that's how I knew Omari was going to be my best friend. I was like, what's your name? And he's like, Omari, and I was like, oh wow, that sounds like Kimari. I was like, that's my favorite one. And then I was like, that's weird. And then he's 6'6" and doesn't talk, and I was like, that was us at work. It was Yuna and Kamari. That was us, and I'd be like, Omari doesn't talk much. But no, but he's really the nicest one here, but he'll take you down. But if you want to run the game with no sphere grid, you have to use Kamari. Once you get Stone Breath, it's a wrap, just so you guys know. But even down to their clothing, like I said, you see, when you first see Kamari, whether or not he's, and it's like this with all of the characters, but I just use him as an example of going, you see him, and you obviously can tell from this character, like, he's very traditional, he's very, no, I wear this, and I wear that. You can just look at him and you know. And then you get these little tiny pieces of information about all of them throughout the game. And then it's like, wow, they didn't have to go all out like that, and they did, and it shows, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully done. The story, the world, everything. It's beautifully done, and that's why it was the best-selling remastered game of the Final Fantasy series. I'm pretty sure it was all the way up until like I don't know if Final Fantasy VII Remake passed it, but I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy X-2 remastered version was the best-selling remastered one of the entire series. You guys know how I am. I get going, I don't take good notes anymore. And so I'm just like, it could be, but I could be lying to you. But I'm pretty sure it is. I know for a long time it was, but I know a bunch of stuff for Final Fantasy VII came out. So, and I'm not taking anything away from 7 or anything else, like I said. But 10, I really do. I think it's the best Final Fantasy of all time. It's definitely one of the greatest games of all time. And I do think that anybody could pick this up and play it. And no matter what your age is, 40 or 10 or anybody in between can pick this up and play it. And not only that, it's not super confusing. It's not like 7 or the other ones where sometimes it gets wild and it's kind of hard to be like, okay, what am I doing here? And the sphere grid, that's easy to understand once you get going on it, and that's not a bad thing. And some people think that something being easier is bad, and it's like, no, not always. It's not like when people might get upset with me when Warcraft made paladins, because that was some cheap shit. That was when Warcraft really went down the tubes. And Orin would beat the brakes off anybody. I don't care what anybody says. He's the GOAT. But, yeah, I just wanted to react to this. I can't believe it's 21 years old. It just reminds me of the Toonami days. What good days those were, you know? But I'm happy with Motor City Nerds. Go check out my other videos. I got a Stephen King one up. I got Game of Thrones stuff up. House of the Dragon. It's all happening. So I've just been meaning to do this. And then Final Fantasy X was trending. And then it was like, oh, yeah, no, it turned 21 today. I was like, oh, my God. This is the perfect opportunity to do this. But, yeah. It really is. I always said this too. If I keep going with tattoos now, I don't know if I will, because I'm old and boring and they hurt me now. And this is the last one I got. No, my Elder Wand was the last one I got done. This one took three times, and one of them we went for 7 hours, and I was just like, man, shit, I don't know if I can do this anymore. But if I ever keep going, I want all the Aeons from Final Fantasy X, and I want them super big and colorful. And I'm like, man, that would be, oh my God, that would be a lot of time in a chair. That's all I'm saying.